everybody, Trevor here. Since this month of October will mark the 14th anniversary of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, I thought we'd discuss my top 6 episodes from that show. For this list, I will only include those from Generation 4, so that means no Generations 1 to 3, nor Generation 5, which I plan to talk about sometime in the future because it's now unfortunately cancelled. I also won't be including any two-parters, movies, specials, or any of the spin-off episodes, not even Pony Life, which I thought was overall mediocre, but it's still better than Teen Titans Go in my arrogant opinion. And the reason I'm making this a top 6 is because my last video regarding the My Little Pony characters was also a top 6 video of its own. Oh, and keep in mind that these episodes will be from seasons 1 all the way to 9, just to go in chronological order. Now, without further ado, let's begin the magic, shall we? Number 6 goes to Winter Wrap-Up. This episode is about Twilight Sparkle wanting to fit in to help every pony during the winter wrap-up before spring comes. When it comes to Season 1 episodes, this will be my most favorite of the bunch, mainly because of the winter wrap-up song that plays at the beginning of the episode. I also thought that it had a nice message about learning to fit in and knowing what your hidden talents are. For instance, because Twilight is so smart, she is very good at organization and tells every pony to work together to get the job done before spring comes. And trust me, I'm very good at organizing myself in real life. So all in all, I definitely recommend watching Winter Wrap Up in terms of Season 1 episodes. There are other ones I like as well, but for the sake of this video, I'm only picking one episode from the first season. Number 5. Hurricane Fluttershy. This is honestly my favorite Season 2 episode, and it's also one of my favorite episodes starring my favorite Pegasus, Fluttershy. It starts off with Rainbow Dash telling every Pegasi to meet up to watch an old 50s-like documentary about creating a tornado to propel water all the way up to Cloudsdale in order to make more rain clouds. Rainbow Dash wants to reach a record of 1,000 horsepower with 800 Pegasi, which gets Fluttershy nervous because she had a bad experience as a filly when every pony made fun of her flying abilities. So she tries to fake being sick as well as fake being injured, but Rainbow Dash didn't believe her. To be honest, I felt awful for her when she started crying during one scene because of her flashback. In other words, this is called social anxiety, and it can happen to anybody. Luckily, her animal friends did their best to get her confidence back by making her practice for the event that's about to happen. But unfortunately, it didn't last very long when she scored a 2.3, which Twilight said was a slight improvement, but Fluttershy still had no confidence. But later, she decided to go help her friends because some of the Pegasi were catching the flu, and as a result, got tired and started crashing into each other, and that Twilight convinces Fluttershy to overcome her fears and help out Rainbow Dash reach her goal of 1,000 horsepower. And sure enough, they've all succeeded thanks to Fluttershy's help and the other Pegasi complimented on her flying skills. Overall, because I love Fluttershy as a character, as well as the episode's overall great message about overcoming your fears and self-confidence, this is my most favorite episode of Season 2. I highly recommend you go watch it for yourselves. Number 4. Magical Mystery Cure. Now, don't get too angry when I put this on the list because I actually like this episode from Season 3. I thought it ended this season on an overall perfect note. I honestly don't mind the idea of Twilight being turned into an alicorn at the end because it makes her look more powerful, and it also foreshadows the events of Seasons 4 to 9, which I'll get into more a little later. In this episode, Twilight Sparkle accidentally switches her friend's cutie marks, which causes chaos around Ponyville. For example, Fluttershy has Pinkie Pies and Rarity has Rainbow Dashes. This leads us to a song known as What My Cutie Mark Is Telling Me, which I thought was an overall decent song. This makes Twilight Sparkle feel bad about herself because she didn't know how to fix the problem in the first place. But when she finally figures it out, the main 6 and the respective key marks were swapped to their rightful place, creating new magic in the process. Which leads Twilight Sparkle to appear in space with Princess Celestia, who grants her a reward by transforming her into an alicorn and crowning her Princess of Friendship, thus ending Season 3 on such a positive note. I know a lot of people didn't like this change, but as I stated earlier, This Alcorn transformation of hers makes her look much better and more powerful in my humble opinion. After all, she is one of the main characters of the show. However, my only gripe with this episode is the overall pacing because it feels rushed. But that doesn't stop me from enjoying the overall story as well as the Kitty Mark song I was talking about. In conclusion, Magical Mystery Cure is a great episode. It has a good message about learning to fix your mistakes even if it seems hard at first. I especially love Twilight's new Alicorn form, which makes her look better than her original unicorn attire. Not to mention that during Princess Celestia's song in the climax, we get to see flashback scenes from previous episodes before this one, which I thought was a nice touch. Oh, and if you don't like this episode, that's fine. Just understand why I think it's overall great. Number 3 is Slice of Life. This is a season 5 episode, and it's a very special one starring some of the minor characters like Derpy playing the lead role. In other words, this is fan service done right. And no, I don't mean inappropriate fan service like stuff you see in anime. Anyways, the episode is about a wedding planned between Matilda and Cranky, and everyone, including Derpy, are playing it all out while the main six fight off a bugbear in the process. I think it's really nice to give Derpy a bit of spotlight because, after all, she is a fan favorite amongst the Brony and Pegasister fandom community. She's like one of the more interesting background ponies in the entire show because of her derped eyes. And to be honest, I don't care what the soccer moms think of Derpy. I don't find her offensive at all. In fact, she's not really an offensive stereotype to people with disabilities. She's just silly and clumsy like Ed from Ed, Edd n Eddy. We also get to see other minor characters, including that purple sea serpent who first appeared in season 1, as well as another fan favorite character named Dr. Hooves, who is a pony version of Doctor Who, which is a show that I never got into for some odd reason. Another thing I like about this episode is the bickering and fighting between Celestia and her sister Luna during a few scenes, which I thought was pretty funny because I've heard that there were some fans out there who like to portray the two as a sibling fight, and trust me, I have had fights with my sister plenty of times in the past. Oh, and I especially like the one scene where Gummy the Gator was thinking in his mind like a sociopath, which I thought was pretty hilarious as well. So, in conclusion, Slice of Life is one of the best episodes of My Little Pony Friendship Magic, as well as the best episode in Season 5. I love how everything builds up to the wedding scene between Cranky and his fiancée Matilda, as well as a bunch of fan service here and there, like the scenes with Derby, for instance. I highly recommend this one if you like family-friendly fan service in general, as well as episodes that focus on minor characters rather than the main ones. I definitely give this one a 10 out of 10 gold stars because it's just that great of a story. Number 2, The Perfect Pair. This is a season 7 episode about the love story between Bright Mac and Pear Butter, who are the parents of Applejack, Big Macintosh, and Apple Bloom, and how they are half pear and half apple. When it comes to love stories in My Little Pony, this would be my favorite one because of the emotional bond between Bright Mac and Pear Butter. And it's also a Romeo and Juliet type story with the apples going against the pears. Oh, and I especially love the song that they played together during the picnic scene. It's a really nice and emotional song. But what's more emotional about this episode is that we don't really know what happened to them after they gave birth to their children. Did they die off somewhere off screen? Or were they just still in hiding? It's never really explained to us in the episode, but hey, at least the pears and apples are getting along nowadays, and that's all that matters. So if you're looking for an emotional Valentine's Day episode or love story in general, then this is the perfect episode for you. But try not to get too teary-eyed because I don't like seeing people cry. Before we get to number 1, I just want to give a few honorable mentions. Any romantic episodes starring Big Mac and Sugar Belle. They seriously would have been number 2. And as much as I enjoyed this couple, I did kind of felt bad for Marble Pie at one point in one of the holiday episodes where she felt betrayed. Man, Hasbro did her dirty. Power Ponies. I was going to add this episode to the list, but because I couldn't find any room for it in this top 6 video, it would have been somewhere in the middle. Apple Family Reunion. It got beat out by both The Perfect Pair and Magical Mystery Cure in terms of the Apple family and Season 3 episodes in general. And my number one most favorite My Little Pony Friendship is Magic episode of all time is The Last Problem. I know I'm going to get some hate for this, but I personally consider The Last Problem not only my favorite season 9 episode, but my most favorite episode overall because I thought it ended Generation 4 on an overall positive note. I don't care what anyone else says. In this story, an all grown up Twilight Sparkle, who is now the same size as Princess Celestia, was telling the story to a new one off character named Luster Dawn, who was having friendship problems. Later in the episode, we get to see moderately old versions of the other members of the main six, who are still looking great as usual in my honest opinion. Not to mention that some of them, like Pinkie Pie, were having families of their own. Yeah, I thought it was pretty neat that Pinkie Pie married Cheese Sandwich, who was portrayed by Weird Al Yankovic, one of my favorite singers by the way. And as soon as Twilight finishes her story, she kindly convinces Luster Dawn to go out and make friendships. And then we end on a very great and memorable song with a bunch of characters in the background, as well as the main six and Spike gathering together in the sunset until the book comes to a close, thus ending the series on a perfect note. Now, if there's one thing I don't like about this episode, it would be an all grown up Spike still using his normal kid voice like he usually does. Yeah, I thought it was weird that they did that. Shouldn't he talk more like a man rather than still sounding like a little boy? But hey, at least they fixed that problem in Generation 5. Please don't kill me. Now, do you see why I consider The Last Problem to be my all time favorite episode of the entire show, as well as in Season 9? Like I said a couple times before, this is an excellent finale to Generation 4 in general because it marks the end of a good era. While sure, there were still some things that weren't explained in the series, like what happened to Bright Mac and Pear Butter after the perfect pair, or what happened to the original Grogar, who I'm assuming was long dead before the events of Season 9. But still, I think Season 9 of Friendship is Magic is one of the best seasons in the entire show, and I think it ended Generation 4 on a better note than Generation 5, which ended due to its failure for some odd reason. Heck, Generation 4 ended on an even better note than the original Thomas and Friends series. I know I'm stating the obvious, but it's the truth. But all in all, The Last Problem deserves the number one spot for these reasons alone. It's one of those MLP episodes I could watch again and again just for kicks. I'll give it a 9 out of 10 stars just to be nice. Now let me know in the comment section below on which MLP episodes are your favorite. Do you agree with my list or do you have your own personal preference? And if there's anything else you think I could have done better or messed up on, which I'm definitely sure there is, then feel free to leave any constructive criticism down below as well. Oh, and yes, I will tackle Generation 5 and Pony Life eventually, but not now, because I want my next top video to be about Halloween specials, which I'll try to get done before Halloween comes. This is Trevor Davis signing off, and I hope you all have an excellent weekend.